I'm Matt Reynolds, and this is my podcast.
Tony, thanks for doing this. We are sitting in your boardroom here this afternoon. It's a hive of activity this time of year, isn't it?
Doesn't get any busier.
It's a very impressive operation. I haven't seen inside, but I've seen what's coming and going. Can you give us an idea, because you're growing so quickly and you've traditionally grown so quickly over the journey, can you give us a bit of insight as to your numbers of what comes out of here in terms of books and what happens here on a daily, weekly basis?
So it's Christmas 2018. So at the moment, in December, we're shipping around 30,000 individual books per day.
Okay.
When we moved into this facility in mid-2014, we were doing maybe reaching 10,000 books per day, maybe 8,000 or 9,000 books per day. So that's just 4 years ago.
Tripled.
Yeah.
And was this a purpose-built facility?
So it's 13,000 square meters. We took it as an empty shell. The boardroom that we've got that you see, the previous tenants just left it as is. So we got this kind of fit out and some of the fit out in the office. But the actual facility, some of the high shelving was left where it was, removed a few, but all of the automation and everything that kind of connects everything has been built by us over this time.
And that's right down to even the programming and coding level. Have I got that right?
Yeah, so we've built our own website, our warehouse management system, our internal software systems, and all the automation software that connects our software to the actual automation, as well as all the algorithms that operate the site, pricing, reordering algorithms. That's all built in-house.
And why have you chosen to do that yourself rather than go outside? I guess it's not really an off-the-shelf sort of arrangement, is it?
No. So look, my business partners are my brother and my brother-in-law, and my brother-in-law and my sister actually is also in the business.
Yep.
And so my background was a computer programmer in the mid-80s. I was a terrible programmer and got into sales and selling computers and then recruitment, and I was very good at recruitment for the computing industry.
Okay.
But my brother-in-law was an IBM software engineer, so my background and his expertise, we had a level of confidence about building software. So we weren't daunted by perhaps some other entrepreneurs who go, "Oh, that's a black box. I don't know anything about that. Hand it over to the experts." We could consider the buy versus build all the way through, and we were very fortunate enough over 10 years ago to secure and attract our first developer, who's now my deputy CEO and also our chief technology officer, who has run and built all of that. And my brother-in-law is and has not been involved in the software development for a long time, but that team and the 20 people in there are building all of that software under his jurisdiction.
So there's a team of 20 that's done that?
Now we have a team of 20, yeah.
Okay. So this is almost would you say it's a technology company that sells a physical product?
I would say most e-commerce businesses are, if you think about it. Like there's it's logistics and it's technology. So
Yep.
From Amazon all the way down, it's that. You don't have a shop front, you don't have people walking in, so it's a technology. I mean, I always feel that we're a micro wholesaler. We're not sending by courier large boxes from our business to somebody else's business. We're selling smaller boxes of product to consumer locations. We have a lot of businesses and government departments and libraries and schools buying from us.
Yes.
Sure.
Yep.
And they are quite often bigger orders, but essentially, if you walk through our facility, you'll see that it's mostly looks like a wholesale business, just lots of small packages going out to locations around Australia and New Zealand.
And to what level of the operation is automatic? Do you have robots that pick and pack, or not to that extent?
No, not picking. Packing, we have packing machines.
Yes.
But the picking, even if you see those photos of Amazon,
Yep.
There's still people walking around picking.
There is, yeah.
So books is something that people need to understand. It's like an egg. It's a product that doesn't come with any protective packaging. So the product sits on the shelf unprotected. It gets picked unprotected and then needs to be protected to make its way in a pristine condition to our customers. So it's one of the things that we worked out early on, that's not a part that can really be well roboticized. You can have a lot of automation in there to assist you in terms of reducing the time between the order and the pick. There's lots of great technology that's out there, but at the end of the day, it's still someone putting their hand somewhere, even if the books are coming to you. So it's a goods to person technology, which we don't have because it's very, very expensive. You're still, someone's putting their hand into the tote, into the bucket, grabbing the book, and then that goes off back into storage. So that makes it a really complicated and difficult business. When we have in stock just under 150,000 titles, there's really no other companies out there that are holding, well, there's probably very few that are holding that much SKUs, stock titles, and and we have 6 million on our website, and there's 27 million active books in the world, of which we discard a lot of them because we're not happy. Either you can't get them or the quality is really poor and we just discard them. And so that's a very, very large databases, lots of customer choices. So it's a complicated and very what I like to feel a very high barrier to entry business. It's not easy to it's easy to start something, but to really get to that level where you've got massive critical mass and you're our size, it's a real high barrier to entry.
Which is good protection if you're
That's
to
right.
keep others out.
That's
right?
what was appealing to me in the beginning.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to ask about where the idea of books actually came from. Was that one of your thoughts back in the early days? It wasn't.
So before Booktopia, so my background, software developer, selling computers, very short period, and then recruitment for the computing industry. That was 14 years worth. I started my first company in that period, which was in the mid-90s on the internet, and that was for IT recruitment business. Started in the front room of my house, and when I went out and told people that I was an internet recruitment agency, the first question I got asked back then was, "What's the internet?" It was 2 years before Seek.com.au started. That I was the third recruitment agency on Seek. So recruitment. Then we sold that because we had built some chat software to chat with our candidates while they were looking at our website. Other companies wanted to use that chat software, so we decided to make our fortune on that. And then in the early 2000s, there was a huge .com crash that we got caught up in, and we weren't be able to pay ourselves any money. And so a conversation I had with a web designer back then was, Google's been going for a few years now. It's getting more and more popular. How do you get to the top of Google? Like, if someone did a search for chat software. And so he told me what to do, and after a couple of months, we're at the top of Google for chat software. And through a number of conversations, we ended up flipping from being a chat software business to an internet marketing consultancy. There was much more demand at that time to be at the top of Google as it got more popular, even though the .com crash had impacted everyone, but we could survive and thrive doing internet marketing. And it was in 2003 that my brother won a project to work on the Angus and Robertson website to get them to the top of Google. And it was that project and a meeting subsequently, actually almost 15 years to the day, where we met with the company that Angus and Robertson outsourced all of their website and fulfillment here in Sydney. And that company in North Ryde in Sydney managed 80 bookstores' websites. So my brother had this idea of having a meeting with the owners of that company, because they managed all those other bookstores. Why don't you introduce us to all your other customers? We'll get them all to the top of Google, and you'll make more money. And it was that conversation that introduced us to the book industry. The owner of the company said, "No, I'm not interested." And I said, "You're not interested in making more money?" He said, "Look, it's not our business. Our business is managing bookstore websites and fulfilling those orders." I said, "Well, how does it all work?" And they said, "You give us the name of your bookshop, and within 10 minutes we can have a website up and running with your bookstore name up the top and 1 million books on there. And if you sell anything, we pay a commission at the end of every month. And I said, well, that sounds interesting. And the owner said, yeah, but no internet-only businesses made anything out of it. The bookshops that we have out of the 80 bookshops that have actually been successful have been off the traditional bookstores that wanted a website. They're the ones that have actually done anything. So I went away from that meeting to our little 60 square metre office in North Sydney, not much bigger than this room.
Yeah.
And I said to my brother, wouldn't mind giving that book thing a bit of a go. And according to my brother-in-law, that was the business plan. I wouldn't mind giving that book thing a bit of a go. So that's where it all started.
It's almost like that's a reseller kind of model, right?
Correct. We were a marketing front.
So how long did it take between giving that a go to when you turned into what now is Booktopia? Is it?
Yeah, so what happened was my brother, who handled the finances, said, okay, I came up with the name Booktopia through a process of eliminating what I didn't like. But when I came up with that name, I just knew that was the one.
Yeah.
And we told the company that we were going to launch a bookstore, and its name was Booktopia. So within 10 minutes, we had a website with 1 million books on there and Booktopia's name up the top. And my brother, who handled the finances back then, said, look, we're really getting back on our feet now with all these internet marketing projects. You got to work on Booktopia outside of hours. I said, sure, yeah, no problem. And I'm giving you a budget of $10 per day to start the company. He's very generous, my brother. Hasn't changed. And so what happened was, because I was a Google AdWord expert for my clients, I knew how to set up Google Ads. I capped it at $10 per day. February the 4th, 2004 was the day that we started. It just so happens, not that we knew that until our 10th birthday, it was the same day that Facebook started.
I've heard you tell that story before, yeah.
Yeah, so little did we know. And so therefore, that $10 a day. So I didn't set up my ads to really go after the words books and bookshop and bookstore, because I knew my $10 would be used up really quickly.
Yes.
So I set up campaigns, AdWord campaigns on Google for authors and titles. So when they did a search on Google, once they saw the ad, they would click on it, and I would already have at the back of it, to send them deep into the site where those books were, so it would increase the chance of making a sale.
So you're not sort of mistakenly being selected by people just cruising around, you're going after the people that want to go deep into that spot. I understood, having had that experience all the way back then, kind of how search and how the internet was working. Yeah.
So it did take me 3 days to make my first sale.
Yeah.
That was my total sales for the whole day, the one book.
Yes.
And so then by the end of the month, I'd done $2,000 worth, which was 60 orders. So probably
in the first month, did you say?
Yeah, 60 orders.
That's pretty good for a first month, I would have thought.
Yeah, it was a couple of $1,000s. Yeah. So that was 60 orders, so there's probably 200. So it's about 150 books, say, for example. And by the fourth month, we were up to $30,000 a month.
Wow.
And so all the money that we were making from the sales, we were pouring back in and increasing our Google ads. So I can assume, and you got to understand, how did you know whether Booktopia was going to be Booktopia? We didn't, because it was just one step after another, focus on what the customers want, and then it just kept getting bigger and bigger. So so I can only assume that I went from $10 a day, I was probably doing $1,000 a day on average by the fourth month. So therefore I was probably spending $100 a day, if I do the mathematics.
Yes. By
then. So I was already had increased my spend from $300 for the month to $3,000.
Yes.
So, but I was continuing to pour in. So by the end of the year, I was at $100,000 a month. By the end of 2 years, $200,000 a month. And it was by then that we ended up with a $2 million online store. We thought, okay, maybe someone might want to buy it, because we had already sold our recruitment company to a company listed on the ASX, and so we knew what it was like to sell a company. The only insight that we had at that time was that selling a company listed on the ASX, tremendous due diligence. And we knew after a couple of years of having this $2 million online store that it wouldn't take someone long to work out, actually, Booktopia is just a marketing front. We want to buy this other company that they're using, who's doing all the fulfillment and managing. That's the company to buy.
So you had no stock at this point?
No, neither did they.
Okay, so who held it, or was it print on demand?
No, it was simply the orders would come through the website,
Yeah.
and then we would order from the supplier, or that company that was managing our site would order from the supplier.
Okay, yeah.
Right, then it would come in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6, 8 weeks later it would come in, and then they would ship it. Very, very slow.
Back in the day when $10 a day on Google, you could actually buy something with, and people were prepared to wait 6 weeks for their books, I suppose.
Yes, and also probably it lent itself to the type of books that we were selling potentially. So very much the long tail. So books that people thought they were harder to get. So I could get it on Booktopia. It took a little longer. It was more the front list bestseller titles where there was a lot of anger and upset because we were ordering a book that was on the bestsellers list, and it was taking 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get to the person.
Yeah. So what is your shipping down to now on average in terms of time?
If it's one of those 150 odd thousand that are in stock, it will ship either today or the next day. Okay. Most of the time.
Yep.
During Christmas, it might go to the day after that because it's just the sheer volumes.
Yeah.
It can go out, and that's one of the things about our success now.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was, to take you back to understand the stock strategy.
Yes.
So we built our own website in the end of 2006, coming up to the end of our 3rd year, and we took a warehouse here in Sydney, about 500 square meters, and we bought some shelves on eBay, hired a warehouse manager, and we rang the publishers and said, it's us, it's Booktopia, we're turning over $2 million a year. And they said, we've never heard of you. And so, of course, because all our orders were going through this other company, so therefore we had to start on basic discounts, basic terms, and just build up our relationship with them. Once we left them, we parted ways, February 2007, after being with them for 3 years and doing our own fulfillment. And so what happened was, we didn't have any stock as well in the beginning. But at the end of that, at the end of 2007, so the end of the first year of us going out on our own, or the end of the 4th year of our business, there was this one title that was really popular because the author had been on Oprah. It was Jerry Seinfeld's wife, Jessica Seinfeld, had written this book for cooking for kids.
Okay.
And America had sold out of their 300,000 copies, and Australia's HarperCollins had 200 copies left. So I said to my brother and brother-in-law, why don't we buy those 200 copies? Then we're the only ones that have that stock. And so if someone wanted it, they'll come to us. So we did, and the boxes arrived. So imagine a warehouse where it's only, or a bookshop with only one stock book. You walk in there, right, and then there's one stock book. And so that was us. Yep. So when the orders would come through for this book, it was pick it, pack it, and ship it.
Yes.
For that whole of the first year of being on our own, the feedback was, you're really slow, you suck, I should have bought from Amazon, to this book, wow, what great service. Wow, you guys are fast. Yes. So I said to my family, I said, To Kill a Mockingbird is sold every single month for 50 years. Why are we ordering it in? We should have a few copies.
Yeah.
What else is there? How to Win Friends and Influence People, Power of Positive Thinking, Think and Grow Rich,
all the classics.
Harry Potter, Dr. Seuss, all the perennial classics.
Yeah.
So our warehouse started to fill up. So what happened was, we had a stock strategy then.
Yes.
And that was what gave us the insight to what customers wanted. The more that we stocked, the more we sold. So we've done some analysis over the years. If we take a title that is selling quite well, or somewhat on our site, but it's not stocked, and move it into stock and have it in stock, we sell 4 times as many than a non-stock title.
And just because it's quick?
Yeah. They see it on the website, ship straight away, buy it.
And have it, yeah. Okay. So now, do you have, I'm guessing, algorithms that sit behind what gets displayed on your website? So it's like, I suppose it's a bit like a supermarket in some ways, right? Like, unless people are buying, it goes. Is that all automatic in the?
Yes.
This process is this.
Yes and no.
Okay.
So yes, we have algorithms.
Yes.
The issue or the challenge is that we have 4,000 categories and subcategories and sub-subcategories and sub-subcategories.
Yes.
You cannot. You can have algorithms that manage all of those. what we decided to do was hire book experts, people that have come from the book industry, to merchandise the best and most important categories. So they will look at what's selling, what's perhaps not selling, but they should sell, and make sure, like when you walk into a bookshop and you look at those opening shelves, it's spot on for the month that you're in. It's well picked, it's in stock, or it's current, and that's really, really important. So so they do that, but behind them, supporting them, is these algorithms. Because the truth is that a debut author who we all know, or at least the experts know, is going to end up being Book of the Year. And it just so happens that in the last few years we've had one. Jane Harper's book, The Dry, debut author, won, I think it was the Miles Franklin, certainly won Australian book industry Book of the Year. I forget which ones they won. She won because she won a few. You can't do that with an algorithm. Like, there's no
data there to pick it up.
There's no data.
Yeah.
So having book experts making sure that book people know what, when they go in there, they go, yeah, this feels right, or there's good options here, is very, very important. So you've got your algorithms, but then you're also overriding that with real experts.
Yeah, so it's a combination of both, which
That's
is
right. So yes and no is my answer.
Do you, where does his passion for growth comes from? Is it just off the back of consistent trial and error? Because you've got obviously to trial these things and be in that space. It's a entrepreneurial mindset, if you want to call it that, but you're constantly testing and trying these things. So where does that come from?
It comes probably from my recruitment days. Okay. So I was a recruitment consultant that had contractors working for me.
Yes.
So when I started, I had none, and then my goal was to get to 10.
Yeah.
And then from 10 I had to get to 15. But then you're losing, as you get more and more people working for you on contract. Some of them come off on contracts, whoever the government departments or companies, wherever they were working. So I had to replace them and keep my numbers. Then my goal was to get to 20, then 30. Then 50. I ended up, I think, around 130 people that were working for me.
Okay.
So it's that same level of building upon building. The other thing about it, I think, is that if you can, like, it's great. Like, I've aimed for 20 to 30% growth over the years, from FY09, 2009, our financial year. Yeah. Ending in June 2009, our revenue was 9.4 million. For FY18, just finished, or 6 months ago, it was 113.9. Yes. So if you just calculate the mathematics, it wasn't linear, perfect, but it works out just under 32% year-on-year growth. And I remember sitting several years ago with one of our academic publishers from Melbourne, the CEO of that company, and I was telling him about our growth and how we do. He goes, "How do you do that?" I said, "Oh, it's real simple. All I do is just look at what did we do last year for the same month coming up and aim to be 30% more. And that's how we've grown." And he goes, "God, I've got to change my paradigm. We just aim for 3% growth." So what I've noticed for me and for us is that when you aim for that 30%, if you feel it's achievable, so if I said, let's do 50%, but at a cellular level, like that's just a bridge too far.
Yes.
Then it's not worth having that goal, because you know within yourself it's just an unrealistic goal. But having something at 30%, and if you come up a little short, you come 25, 27, 24, 20, I don't know, but means we've stretched ourselves. But the questions that you ask of yourself when you set that goal, how can I get to there? What can I put in place to make that happen? Your brain gets into gear. So that entrepreneurial mind that you're talking about, you start to think up things that you can do. But if you start saying, I can't do that, or why would I want to do that, or all those kind of negative things that may be running around your brain, it's only going to stop you. So I don't have any of those negative things running around my brain. It's like, what have we got to do to get there? And over the years, we've been very fortunate to be in a position where nobody else was doing what we were doing. I noticed with books, when we got to about 5 million, and there was a bunch of others that were around, they kind of branched off into other. They wanted to have other streams or pillars of their business, baby wear or travel web, and so they got to books 5 million. That's great. Now what else can I do? But what I noticed is that you got to put the same amount of effort in the books as you have to do for the other. And the idea of leverage, I mean, there was some leverage in terms of maybe software and things that you are using, but
Yes.
in terms of marketing activities, etc., it was a lot harder. So by simply focusing on one thing and doing that really well, we've been able to do that. Plus, we've been in a changing, disruptive world where every year of its own accord, online sales are increasing at around 8 to 10% every year as well. So more, if you think of two shopping centres going against each other in the one suburb, and for whatever reason, parking, I don't know, feng shui, everyone's ending up at that one,
Yes.
and the people that are in that store are getting 10% just by simply being there. They're benefiting because of whatever reasons. That's getting. So we're in a situation where online in Australia and around the world is more and more part of our everyday living. So there's a wave that we've been riding that that we've made sure that we've been on and ridden it all for the last 15 years.
So, do you see that continuing to increase?
Of course.
There won't be any slowing down to that, or speed up, do you think?
No, but it's still the multiples get bigger. So 10% on 10
Yeah.
is 11%, but 10% on 20% is 2. So it's that typical compound interest
Yes.
that happens as the numbers get bigger and bigger. Look, in the US and the UK, it's around 15 to 20% of all sales are happening online, and we're at 8. So I suspect that we're just in lag, and we'll end up at around that level. I can only assume that it's going to get more and more.
Yeah.
And that's why even the traditional retailers are trying to work out their online strategy, click and collect and whatever else they can do because it's from the customers. It's the customers are dictating now how they want to shop.
Yes.
So therefore, if you don't meet the demands, if you don't understand that dynamic, then you'll be standing around going, why aren't we doing well?
Yeah.
What's happening? Why are we missing the boat?
Before you mentioned that you set your goals to 30% on to increase 30% what you did last month, is there any one particular number that you focus consistently on, or is it a holistic approach?
There's quite a few, so we've got quite a few dashboards.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about me and numbers is that it's not two-dimensional. So when I talk to our sales teams about our sales figures,
Yes.
it's a three-dimensional sphere or cube, and so therefore from one side, when you're looking at the results from the book people's perspective, this is how we're doing on fiction, this is how we're doing on non-fiction kids, that title, the bestsellers list, blah 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 blah. So how are you doing? How are you guys doing? We're doing this. But on the other side, I've got my digital marketing team. How are we doing with our Google AdWords, organic SEO, search engine optimization? How's our free traffic, our EDMs, so our email direct marketing? How's that? So they're looking at the same results from a different angle.
Yes.
Whereas our pricing and inventory team are looking at what's the average selling price, what's the gross margin, what's so they're same results. So and I think that's really important to understand the three-dimensionality of your numbers. And if you're only looking at it very two-dimensionally, what's your profit or what's your gross margin, you may be missing something really important.
Yeah. So it's not, you can't just focus on, for instance, what you sell or the amount you sell. It's a much more holistic approach.
At the end of the day, I do focus on our revenue, because what revenue does means you're growing and capturing market share, you're satisfying more customers. You've got more money to then hire more people, hold more stock, write more software. So ultimately, more cash in the business enables us to do more.
And I had down to ask you if you've ever been tempted to run anything else through the distribution system that you built But clearly, from your answer before, that's not something that you're going to look at anytime soon.
We built it to do it, and
originally that was the idea.
yeah,
Okay.
we thought we could consider that.
Mm-hmm.
However, in the last, so we kind of started moving in here in 2000. Well, we started looking to move in 2013, and we moved mid 2014. So we're 4.5 years here in this facility, and so way back then it was like yes, and when we expand into other lines, etc., that we'll look at that. The truth is then as I started to consider or travel around the world and think about how other companies were succeeding in a world where Amazon was already operational, what I observed is that there was a lot of companies flourishing around the world where Amazon was well established, and what were they doing? They were focusing on one thing and doing it really well. So they could then connect with those customers, and even though they may be a little bit more expensive, but they got better knowledge or better range or a better shopping experience, or that wasn't so cluttered with everything to everyone, which is what Amazon is. So in the end, by really focusing on books, and books is a $2 billion business in Australia. So when we moved in here was 2014. So our revenue was 39 million, and today, as I said, 114 million. So therefore, by focusing on books, we're getting all the growth, and we felt that we still have quite a small percentage of the Australian market. We can easily get to 300 million. Well, not easily, nothing's easy like that. But,
of course, yeah.
But by doing what we do, we'll get to 300 million by simply focusing on books. So I think there's a lot of learnings around that, and therefore we would be able to potentially once we get to 500 million, and we've developed our software even more, that we could easily do that and add another line. I mean, keeping in mind we sell DVDs, we sell stationery, we sell magazines, although that's more a subscription service that then gets outsourced. Same as ebooks. I mean, ebooks is digital. So we've got calendars and journals and everything that we have, which is like one deviation away from a book. Yeah. So if you walked into a bookshop, and you wouldn't be offended to see a calendars,
diaries,
or journals, diaries.
Stuff, yeah.
That's right. So that's where you feel like you're being appropriate for your customers.
Yes.
If you are selling umbrellas on there,
it doesn't make sense. Like,
yeah, there's what am I doing here? What are the umbrellas? And so we've been very mindful around that.
And I think I'm assuming if you do that right, you can actually remove price as the determining factor for a buy. Would that be right? By creating that presence, that community around simply books, and the knowledge that you put behind that with your authors and people in the industry that promote for you. I assume that means you don't have to be the cheapest to then still flourish.
we never wanted to be the cheapest. So a guy that I know, and I don't see him that often, I've seen him a few times, but when we were doing our web marketing business, he had an online pharmacy website, and then eventually he melded into Chemist Warehouse, and I was speaking at an event, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, something like that, and we talked about pricing, and he said, being the cheapest is a 1 cent spiral down to the bottom.
Yes. And
that only reinforced our strategy, which we were always doing, not to be the cheapest. But I'll tell you an interesting and a fun story. So several years ago, I was rung up by an organisation, a committee that was a government committee that was put together called the Book Industry Strategy Group. They're putting a paper together to report back to government about what's happening with the book industry, what are some of the initiatives we need to consider, copyright, parallel importation, etc. Lots of different things.
Sort of the state of the nation on
books. And so I was rung up to be on that strategy group, and they said, and I said to them, well, you don't want me on there. I'm going to piss people off. What the way that I think and how I'm going to provoke people, I'm the last person you want on there. And so I hung up. And so about half an hour later, the guy that was overseeing the whole thing gave me a call on it. And he said, Tony, I heard that you didn't want to be on the book industry strategy group. I respect that, no problem. But if I could just have a conversation with you, and I just want to talk about why before you make that final decision. And what he said to me was, look, we've got everyone on there. We've got authors, best-selling Aussie authors, smaller authors. We've got literary agents. We've got printers. We've got the big publishers, the little publishers. We've got the big discount chains. We've got independent bookshops. There's everyone is on there. It'd be great to have an online retailer on there.
Yes.
And so I was listening to the guy, and I don't know, after about half an hour or something, I said to him, all right, I'll join your group. I said, but before I'll say yes, but I just want to ask you one final question. Has the most important group of all been invited to sit on the strategy group? And there was dead silence. No, they haven't. The readers.
The people that read the books, yeah.
The customers. So all these people were getting together. Now, I had already worked out that the secret to our success, or the key to our success, was that all we did every day was ask, what do the customers want?
Yeah.
And so by focusing on that, I could see that no one else in the book industry was doing that. No one was. So for us to hold romance books with bare-chested men in kilts in the Scottish Highlands, right, which a bookstore, independent bookstore, couldn't hand on heart say to someone, oh, could you stock this book, because they just did, and I'm generalizing here, but quite often people would say, look, I can't endorse that because I would never read it, and so therefore I don't.
Understand what you're saying, yeah.
But for us, we were selling those books by the millions, so it didn't bother me because I knew that's what our customers wanted.
Yeah.
So the reason why I shared all that story with you is you asked about the pricing. Mm-hmm. So on that group was the CEO of Dymocks of the time, not the current CEO, but
yes.
a guy by the name of Don Grover, a very big man.
Yeah.
No, I mean he's big, very tall, with a deep, booming voice, and
someone you listen to.
Don, and he had come out of David Jones. He came out of the fast-moving consumer goods, not necessarily books, and so something was coming up, and they were talking, and they were very pushing the whole parallel importation issues, which is basically in the book industry, meaning that you can bring the international books in, which are cheaper, to help be competitive with the international pricing. And he said to the strategy group at one point, it's not all about price, it's price and availability. Price and availability. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's right, because that's what we're experiencing. It's about when we actually have it in stock ready to ship, we don't have to be one cent cheaper than anyone else. So if we hold more than anyone else, then they can trust us to get it out. So you just have to be in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be the cheapest. It was an unbelievable awareness, and that's one of the things that we've been. So I can see sometimes that some of our competitors are obviously price scraping our website and setting themselves 1 cent under us.
Oh yeah.
But it's coming from the UK.
Yeah.
Or it's coming from somewhere overseas. So it's going to take 3 weeks. Why would how much cheaper would it need to be for that customer to then go, I'll buy it from overseas because I'm happy to wait 3 weeks, 2 weeks, or whatever, how long it takes, versus I could get it a couple of days from Booktopia.
Shipping's got to be more, and it's got to be generally a more expensive exercise, isn't it?
Sometimes, on one of our competitors, Book Depository, who are owned by Amazon and have been owned by them since 2011, it's free shipping. But there's no such thing as free shipping.
Yes.
Right?
Because someone's got to pay for it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we're spending well over $10 million with Australia Post every year.
Yeah.
We're the 7th largest Australia Post customer. So if you look at the Book Depository site, which I know I've asked people to do from the UK, because sometimes it's being shipped from the UK, what's the price in pounds over there? You do the calculation. Let's have a look at the Australian price. Oh, there's a $5 difference. So if you buy 8 books from the Book Depository, you paid $40.
Yeah.
If you buy 8 books from us, it's $6.95 for as many books as you want per order.
Yeah.
So sometimes, even though it may seem cheaper there, it may not always.
Yeah.
The other thing now is since the 1st of July, we've got the GST on all international orders.
It's going to help you guys out, right?
Yeah, we've noticed it's leveled out the pricing a lot more.
Okay. I wanted to ask about the how you see the future of deliveries, because that seems to be maybe not the sticking point, but a factor. Like as the deliveries get better and faster, you become more and more convenient than traditional stores, right? So are we going to see, I mean, we've heard about drone delivery and all that sort of stuff. Is that going to happen in your opinion at or anytime soon?
So we're shipping 30,000 individual books per day.
Yep.
That's one business. So if online sales are around 25 billion in Australia and we're 120 odd billion, our percentage is really, really small.
Yep.
So let's say, for example, Sydney is at the top end 20%. I can't imagine it'd be that big, but let's just say it was 20%.
Sure.
Melbourne 20%
Yep.
of all orders. How many drones are going over the city in one point delivering all those? That's a lot of drones going everywhere. So
Fair point.
yeah, so yeah, I'd hate to be a helicopter pilot
Yes.
When that happens. So look, I'm an entrepreneur. I imagine the unimaginable. I turn the
Yes.
invisible into visible. So there is an element of me going, well, it could happen, but there's an intuitive thing to go that at this stage, depending on certain circumstances, I would imagine if you're out and you're a post office in rural or regional New South Wales, and you can deliver by drone to a lot of the cattle stations or farms. The drone goes up, goes out, delivers, and it saves the postie going out there, and it gets, if it's raining or if they're bogged in, then it makes sense to me. So there's certain situations I can only imagine that's going to be really helpful. It's about whether all those things is about whether it's adding value and if that's what the customer wants. I mean, the question that you kind of not alluding to, but I could bring into your answer is that for books, if we said to the market, we can do 1 hour deliveries, you give us your order and we'll do 1 hour deliveries, and people are going, yeah, but that's great. Wow, I ordered my book in an hour. It came to me. But is that really going to do it, or is that just a bit of a gimmick? Now, people might accept that ends up being the norm, but is that over-capitalizing or over-offering to your customers that doesn't meet the demand? Someone who really needs the book now is probably ordering one of our ebooks or an ebook from another website if they if they really
faster
need.
than drone delivery, right?
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
So there's uncharted territory. We're not there yet. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to play out, but the logistics of it, in terms of that many drones going over the city, I find it really difficult to concede that is how it's going to happen.
Just to me, it just kind of seems like a bit of a problem that maybe we have to start on a small scale, but we'd be able to figure that out over time, right? Because I mean, it wasn't so long ago we'd have a computer, and if you had more than 1 or 2 programs open, right, it wouldn't work. Whereas now we've got phones with multiple apps running and all that sort of stuff. So it kind of feels like, to me at least, and it might take a bit of time, as you're saying, but kind of seems like a problem that could be figured out if there was enough advantage. But to come back to what you're saying, if the customers aren't demanding it, and they're probably not for books, then I guess there's no reason to do it.
I think safe robots would probably make more sense. I mean, my wife works at the University of New South Wales. Imagine if the mailroom had stuff being delivered into there, and then they had a team of robots that they could just put a parcel in, it gets scanned, it's got to go to this person, and then off it goes. So then deliveries and the safe robots know when to stop, when there's an impediment, to move around something. So on a closed campus situation, that could all be managed easily that way.
Yes. So
that's you take that, and it could even be the mailroom of a very large building where the stuff's coming in, and as more and more people buy online, there's still a lot of stuff being delivered to the office. So not necessarily going to a PO box or to parcel lockers or to whatever. So I think I think robots that can do a lot of that menial task and have a complete system where it gets delivered and signed for, and will probably make more sense to me.
Yeah, okay. No, that's a fair point. The most challenging part of your journey so far, has there been one significant one that stands out?
I always answer with just cash flow. So we've got a lot of projects and dreams and things we want to do, but you can only do as much as your growth and that cash allows. And we've quite often stretched ourselves when we've done an investment in the distribution centre, and money was short on supply. We put more pressure on our suppliers because we were paying them a bit longer. But then once you'd done that, you got through to the other side, and it was part of in the rear vision mirror. Then cash improved. So having the cash to manage our growth. I mean, you got to understand, we started on $10 a day. We're a $113 million company, yes. and we've got a 13,000 square meter facility, $10 million of automation. We built our own website and warehouse management systems, as I was saying before, which is millions of dollars of software. We've got $6 million of stock, over 200 staff. We've donated $750,000 of cash and books to literacy-based projects in Australia, and we've had no funding. So doing all of that out of the proceeds from your customers giving you your money to then deliver a book is quite, it's quite almost unique, certainly miraculous.
And particularly maintaining those rates of growth, right, through that period.
That's right. You've got to have very, very tight cash control and be very clear around your financials. So it's been an important part of our governance in terms of the business.
And you're currently raising money now,
mm-hmm.
for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
The campaign's open at the moment.
It is, yep.
How's it going? Well, first of all, why have you gone down that road? Because it's becoming more and more popular, the crowdfunding
mm-hmm.
track. Why have you gone that way, and how's it going?
So in 2016, we tried to IPO, list on the ASX.
Yes.
And we spent a year kind of preparing for that, and spent quite a few $1 million in preparation. And then the month that we were going to look to list, Amazon announced they were coming to Australia. So all of the fund managers all said, no, we're not going to get involved.
Okay.
And so we had to shelve it because there was just no way we're going to get it away.
Yeah.
And so having done that, one of the things that we were excited about going down that path was our customers could buy shares in us. But what we learned along the way is actually the customers never get invited to buy shares in you, because the fund managers do it first through our brokers, and then if they had a retail network, which one of the brokers had, they then go out to all their sophisticated high net worth individual their customers to offer shares in Booktopia through the IPO.
Yeah.
Our customers were never going to be included in that.
Yeah.
So off we go and continue to grow. So from 80 million to 99 million to 113 million, still growing in the meantime.
Yeah.
And then crowdfunding came into legislation in a much more structured way under ASIC in the last 16 months.
Yep.
And so therefore, using the platforms that are being created from that, we now had an avenue to be able to go out to our customers and invite them through an offer information statement, which enables us to give them a financial document for them to consider and invest as an investor. So how's it gone? It's been going great. We've had hundreds of our customers, and I assume non-customers, been bidding. So it goes through, we've got a minimum of 3 million and a maximum of 10, which is the actual official maximum. You can't raise any more than that in Australia.
Oh, that's an ASIC cap.
Yeah.
You're right.
And so we've got hundreds of people that have put in variety of, or committed a variety, so they haven't yet put any money in. Once you hit 3 million, then it goes live. It's a little bit like selling a house, you know.
Yeah.
We haven't hit the reserve. I'm so sorry, we haven't hit the reserve. We've hit the reserve. This property will sell today, ladies and gentlemen.
It's on. Yeah.
All right. And so once we get to 3, then it's all going to go So we're not there yet. Not at
Okay,
3
so
yet.
not at 3. And how long is the campaign open for?
It's till the 14th of February.
Okay, so there's a fair bit to go.
Yeah.
And then you can invest, if I got this right, as little as $250, I think, is that
Yeah,
right?
so customers or people, Australians, can invest as little as 250. That's 250 shares. That's $1 a share.
Okay.
And then they and then they are be a shareholder and owner of Booktopia.
And is the idea to speed up the growth with those funds?
Yeah. So yes, but also we've done some very rigorous forecasting around what our customers are expecting of us in terms of volumes that are going to go through this facility. So 30,000 a day at the moment. This Christmas, we know how much that's going to jump by. And I mentioned, 4 Christmases ago, we were at 7,000 or 8,000 per day.
Yeah.
So we know how that's going to grow. So therefore, the investment in more automation to ensure that we achieve those numbers. We've done it all ourselves up until now. And to be fair, we could still do it ourselves. But we're happy with the size of where the business is at today for us as the owners. So why not invite others to also participate in that growth? Is basically our position. So we could continue to grow and not do that and not offer it to our customers, but they've been very much, we always say that our customers have been our investors because they've bought with us many times over the years, and we've used their money. For the first time now, they can actually invest in us and actually own a piece of Booktopia.
How, you personally, how many hours a week do you work?
Once I got married, which was 4 years ago, so I met my wife 7 years ago.
Okay.
My son is 15, my stepdaughter's 13. Before then, being single, I definitely worked a lot more hours, and my son was 1 week with me and 1 week with his mother, and so therefore during that time I had nothing else.
Oh yeah.
Now that our family, there's more family time, I feel like I work a lot less, but it's probably around 45 hours a week, maybe 50.
Okay.
Still a lot, but I was probably working 70 or 80 hours a week.
Okay, so that's
in the old days.
Yeah, come down a fair bit.
Yeah, and the beauty of that is I've got an unbelievable team around me now. So with over 200 staff, our executive is very experienced and accomplished. Many of them have been with us for many years. So therefore, my ability, my position as a CEO to not so much rely on them, but have them carry the weight of running the company, and therefore it is a hell of a lot easier, and it's good. That's a healthy thing. You don't want to have any of your executive or your team, anyone at any level, overwork, because at the end of the day you need to be able to get up and have the same amount of energy for the next day, so you're sustainable.
There's I suppose there's probably a limit to how long you can push like that for, right?
Yeah. My deputy CEO though is Wayne Baskin. He works long hours because he's running the IT. A lot of stuff happens after hours and developing the software, and therefore it's he's probably taken some of the hours that I would have been working in the past, which I'm very grateful for.
Is the IT component, do you have people on that 24/7?
No, not 24/7, but they're available 24. I mean, the thing about 24/7 is more that if something tripped over or needed attention, then alerts come up and people have to get up and
on call
at 4 in the morning, or something happens on the weekend. Yes, they need to address that. We've had those situations.
And what do you do on your days off?
So hang out with the family, friends, and there seems to be a hell of a lot of chores that I've got to do at home. I have a very organised wife who's an EA who has, these are the things. She's the CEO at home, so I answer to her.
Okay.
And
maybe I need to ask her that question.
Yeah, that's right. Not enough, I think, is the answer.
Okay, fair enough. The last book that you read?
So I listen to books.
Okay, yeah, so do I.
I listen to books backwards and forwards to it. So because we sell audiobooks
Yes.
and I like the physical versions of the audiobooks. I put them in the car, the discs in the car. But the reason why I like that is I can then hand them on to other people. With downloadables, you can't share them, and I like the idea of sharing. So it just so happens I finished one yesterday. It's one that I wouldn't normally have listened to or read, but it was in the Damages at Work, and it was by Judy Nunn called Flood Tide. Okay. So I just finished that, and it was a 19 CD Australian. I won't say it's chick lit because it was more mainstream, but it was probably a little bit more out of my normal range, which would be historical non-fiction, because I love listening to the Peter Fitzsimons, Rob Mundell, the Roland Perry. So I've listened to a lot of non-fiction, Australian history, but I also listen to a lot of business books as well, and it's just great to drive backwards and forwards and be inspired by. So Good to Great and 7 Habits and Malcolm Gladwell. I've got tons. I've listened because I wasn't reading much, and I've probably in the last 3 years listened to over 150 books, and some of them, because they end up in Damages, unexpected ones. Like I still listen to it. I mean, some of them I have to actually stop after half an hour because I just cannot listen to it. But there's a lot of unexpected gems that have come through.
Have you ever read the book called A Fortunate Life?
By A.B. Facey?
Yeah.
I have not. No.
Yeah, I would never have read anything like that, but I asked Scotty Cam that same question, and that's his favourite book. He keeps a stack at home and gives them to people when they come over, and there's some gems out there from a little while ago.
Yeah,
so.
I know that one. I probably got a physical version of it somewhere. I know we sell a lot of it.
Yes.
But I listened to a book just recently, which was published recently, and it was called The Ship That Never Was. Okay. And I think it's Adam Coventry. I have to look that up. But The Ship That Never Was, and it's about it was about the Tasmanian convicts and how they ended up with a ship that then they escaped and went to South America, and it's probably it's a story that is not as known as others, but it's those little Aussie stories that come up that you go, oh, right, okay, that gives me a real insight to our history.
And also when you start to understand some of the things that these people went through, right, it's pretty hard to have a bad day, or because we can default into complaining about things from time to time, can't we? And then you realise what they've been through, and you think, maybe this ain't so bad what we've got at the moment. So
yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm just listening to one at the moment. I just started last night called Agent Storm, and it's about a guy who ended up in the Al Qaeda and as an undercover agent, and his background. You start listening to what he had gone through and how he got there. I'm really only on the first CD, but it's like, this is another life. I would never know about that.
What was that one called again?
Agent Storm.
Agent Storm.
It's the same as I listened to one a little while back, American Sniper, about the movie where it came from.
Fantastic,
and just listening to his story. And it was written by him and obviously co-writers before his death, which is revealed in the movie. But you listen to what those guys go through, and it gives you an unbelievable insight to other people's day-to-day, where you're living your life and they're living another life, which is completely different and you just so unusual to yours. It's incredible.
And some of the things that they do, the levels that they can go to, like, you're just inconceivable at some of this stuff. So a couple of last questions, Tony, and then we'll wrap up. But the one that I ask everybody, if you could have one law changed or implemented, what would it be?
So, look, parallel importation is a law that exists in Australia that inhibits Australian booksellers to buy books from overseas where the rights have been acquired by the local Australian publishers. Okay. Yep. I support it to a degree. It's very wavering in terms of its in terms of its, I guess, what it was put in place to protect.
Mm-hmm.
The only issue about that is that Australian people do not take parallel importation into consideration. They are buying from book retailers all over the world. So you can fight for your right to have, we're in Australia and we have the rights, and you need to buy from us. The issue is that the consumers are just going offshore and buying from whoever they want. And so it's a defunct rule that it's just archaic. So it's important to protect the publishers because they invest a lot into creating unique content.
Yeah, sure.
And it's really blurred in the way that kind of the way it works in the world, because they're fighting for they're locking down the Australian market, so they can hike up the prices more, so customers pay more for books.
Mm-hmm.
Which is essentially how it's kind of played out.
Yeah.
The truth is that doesn't work anymore. So that would be one law. In terms of just government and the way that I see the responsibility of government, there's three things that the government needs to focus on: is infrastructure, education, and health. There are others that are important, like for people who can't care for themselves, so like those kind of family services, etc. You do those three things. You build infrastructure, you work on education, so we can all be the better for it.
Yes.
And your health system is game over as far as the government is concerned. And all the other stuff that they try and do, it's a load of rubbish. So
yeah.
That's always my message to the politicians.
Get those three pillars right. Can you boil for someone who maybe wants to start a business or is in business, can you boil your business advice down to a couple of sentences or a couple of paragraphs? Is there
There's so many. So I mean, the thing about I believe that everyone is an entrepreneur.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. You may not. An entrepreneur is someone who makes the invisible visible, and the word entrepreneur comes from the French, to enter and take. So I believe that...
I did not know that.
Yeah, I believe that if you can hack into the universal database where everything exists and bring it out and make it visible, then you have the royalties on that, because you were the one that hacked in and brought it out. So ideas like Google and Facebook and whatever else, those guys hacked into the universal database because everything kind of exists. You just need to kind of see it. So by opening up your mind to go, what's there and what can you imagine, I think it's really important to flip your thinking. And that's one of the things that I believe has served me very well, that mindset. When one door closes, another 10 open. So when something doesn't work out the way that you want, I like to break up words. So the word intuition, in training.
Yes.
So people think about intuition. What's your intuition? Oh, it's my gut feeling. It's I had a feeling about that person or that deal, or so. But actually, you're in tuition. You're in training. So
yes.
All experiences that you have, what can you learn from them? What went on? How can you bring it into your gut? So when it happens again, I'm not going to get caught out, or I'm going to back that same person, or I'm going to do that again. And so your intuition is really important. It's the same as the word disappointment. Disappointment. How can the word appointment be so neutral, and you put a dis in front, has so much heavy energy around it?
Yeah.
By understanding that you had an appointment, you had an expectation, you thought something on that day was going to work out that way, and it didn't happen, therefore you're disappointed. So by uncoupling, digging in and going, so what was my expectation? What did I have about that? Means that you're able to work out why you're feeling that way, and then all of a sudden the feelings lift because you've got awareness around what you had, and you let it go and you get over it.
Yeah.
So they're just a few things. The other thing I'll say to you is that competition. Everyone asks me about, do you watch the competition? Do you think about you're watching we never watch the competition. We just focus on what the customer wants. Yeah. What does the customer want? And I'll explain it to you like this. I know I'm a bit podgy around the middle today, but when I was younger, 30 odd years ago, I was a decathlete, an athlete. Did the 10 events, and I wasn't at an Olympic standard, but state, and I went to nationals and did those kind of things. It's the kind of event you do when you're not good at any particular one event. But 100 meters was my best. I ran in 11 flat, and for a decathlete, that was pretty quick.
Yeah, pretty quick, yeah.
And my sprint coach would say to us, look, if you want to slow down, right, look to the side and see where the others are. But if you want to go fast, you look straight down the runway, at a point down the runway, and you have peripheral vision, so you know where everyone kind of is. And we've used a very similar kind of approach to our competitors. Just have peripheral vision. Just, I get where they're up to, but if you're obsessing about what are they doing, then you're losing your direction and your intensity of where you're heading. And I think that is one of the things that has been really important to us, and how come we've grown so quickly over so many years.
Yeah, no, it's evidently a sound piece of advice, so thank you for that. If people want to, booktopia.com.au obviously is the website. If they want to track you down, is there a LinkedIn? I think you're pretty... Is it the best place?
So if someone wants to do a search for LinkedIn, Tony Nash, Booktopia, they can friend me or connect with me, and then send me a message and ask me any question. That's no problem. I'm happy to do that. And then, of course, if they are thinking of investing in Booktopia, then Equitise, Booktopia, or Booktopia crowdfunding, I'm sure at the top of Google will be there as well. And they can do that too.
Your SEO is obviously very good, because doing some research for this, anything that I put the word Booktopia in, you get all the books that you're selling which relate to those other words. So hard to find some stuff on the on you and the company. You've got to get through all your book stuff first. Right. I found which is which is great for
crowdfunding.
I did find it through one of those eventually, and I think I found your LinkedIn post. I think you've put it out a couple of times. So look, it's out there. You can find it. There's no issue with that. But the point of saying that was that your SEO is very, very good, because you own all that stuff. Yeah, exactly right. Tony, thank you for carving out a little bit of your day to do this, and it's been a blast. Cheers.
Thanks, Matt.